This is Ryan McQuaid. I'm the executive editor of awardswatch.com, and I'm speaking with Devotion star Jonathan Majors. Jonathan, thank you for speaking with me today.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure, man. Yeah.
I'm going to start with what is your process in selecting roles, and in particular, how did that factor in to you signing on to Devotion?
I guess the short answer to that, it's a feeling. It's a feeling. Um, but I think that feeling is engendered in uh when reading, I noticed something in myself that I see there's a high level of difficulty in the piece. Sometimes that can be physical, sometimes it can be social or emotional, and that's coming from the character that I'm going to play. And if it doesn't scare me, then I kind of stay away from it,
Mhm.
and have a bad habit of casting it. I'll tell my team, well, this is probably better for so and so. I can't really find my way into it. Um, thank God that wasn't the case for Jesse Brown in Devotion, because I mean he terrified me completely because he was so he read so nuanced, he read so complex. I mean, it's probably the most interesting man in the world. He's bilingual. He flies planes. He, code switches in a strange way. And then on top of that, I think chiefly the fact that the story hadn't been told before. His legacy had been put in front of folk before, and I felt another pull and responsibility and fear to, take on that mantle to do that. So that's how that kind of came to be.
How much did you know about Jesse before shooting the film, and what were you surprised to learn about him when researching and reading the role?
Yeah, I mean, when you first get the script, you're an audience member, So I was an audience member, and I knew nothing about Jesse Brown. I knew a great deal about the Korean War, having had a Korean War veteran in my family,
Mhm.
uh, and that of my grandfather, and then also I got the script when I was in the middle of shooting a TV series in which the character I was playing was indeed a Korean War veteran.
Mhm.
Um, so no, I didn't know anything about him. What surprised me most in it was that how late down the line that this first black anything was being established. So him to be the first black naval aviator, was something that was a huge surprise to me. But also just his character, ultimately just his character. Who he was, how he operated, and just how modern his plight was, things he's experiencing, with racial pressure, with the pressure of excellence, being a young man trying to raise a child, trying to be a great husband, trying to be a good American. These are stories as old as time, and you would think that, it would be cloaked in antiquity, you know, uh, but in reading it, it seemed, I mean, it was on our doorstep, it felt very, very much on my doorstep, very close to me in many ways. So that was surprising because I was getting ready to do, I thought it was gonna be a period piece. I mean, there's so many examples of that. But that has a lot to do with the vision of JD Dillard, and our collaboration. Ultimately, a naval aviator is a rock star. That's the archetype. Yeah.
Along with learning about Jesse's life and career, you also had to prepare physically for these flight sequences and everything. What was the preparation like to pull off those sequences that we see in the film?
Humility first and foremost, because the body is not built. I mean, we don't have we are not built to fly. If we were, we would have done so. So the biggest thing was humility, and getting the body where it needs to be, and the discipline to, um, you know, be patient with yourself, but also to stay calm. Like that seems more mental and social, but to keep yourself calm physically is important. You can look calm, but if your heart rate jumps, if your adrenaline begins to really push through you, that's when you'll black out, you'll throw up, you'll brown out, all these terrible things happen. But in order for the good things to happen, there's a lot of, I mean, you gotta stay hydrated. Be careful what you eat, because inevitably you will have a day where something goes wrong, you know, and that spaghetti bolognese or whatever it is, you know, will fight back. And so I ultimately never had that experience, you know, of letting it all come up. You know, I held it. It all came up many times. It actually just never came out. And so I'll let you and your viewers imagine how uncomfortable that was. But yeah, there's a certain conditioning to it. You know, I probably lost uh probably 7 pounds in the training of it, you know, and also in the actual flying, like flying weeks, just because of diet and, you know, your adrenaline gets up like that, you're stressed, you
Yeah.
know, and so your body wants to burn, and you know how to replenish all of that, and you know you sleep like a baby the next day because you feel so, you know, out of whack. But yeah, it was incredible from head to toe, from takeoff to landing, I think.
Did you have a favorite moment when you were shooting those sequences?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's kind of, maybe I'm a masochist, but it's kind of like there's a moment where the first time I was there, you know, where, I mean, these guys would ask us, you know, do you want to go back down? You know, I think they asked me that once, and it was this one particular time when, you know, you're so sick, you're cold, you know, like the body is, I mean, the body's like, this is it, you know, your body doesn't know what's happening, you know, it's in a foreign object, you know, it's in a space in which it was not made to be in. um but we were doing a day where we were really just going for it. I mean, we had done maybe 3 or 4 days. I was flying, then my operator was flying, and then this particular day we got into like a really what was the bird called, a very intense, like we were in Cessnas, and then we were in you know, the Corsair approximate, you know, like we were in all these, you know, but this particular day we went up in like a big dog, you know, and there was going to be some moves and maneuvers, and he really took it there, you know what I mean? And I mean, I was wrecked, you know, like completely wrecked on that day. um but I remember a moment where, you know, we were doing barrel turns, boom, 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 boom. You know, he did the first. I mean, literally, you're going wham, wham, you know. And so he did the first two, and you're so happy that you've survived it. You know, you've done it, and you go, okay, cool. Then he does a third one, boom. Then he goes down. Then he pushes you straight up, you know. And so as you're going, as we were going on that particular day, I was like, wow, this is incredible. But then my body started really freaking out, like just really freaking out. And you know, he asked me, you know, did I want to go back down? And I remember like pouring sweat. And all I was thinking was that Jesse Brown wouldn't go back down. You know what I mean? There'd be no quit. There'd be no quit. And so I said, no, sir, let's continue. He said, are you sure? I said, yes, sir, let's continue. And we stayed up there another, you know, I don't know, probably 10 minutes, you know, but that was the duration of it, you know. That was probably the most intense and like probably my favorite day of shooting, or preparation, because it's very rare that you get to those moments, you know, outside of scene work, where you feel completely aligned with, you know, the spirit of the character that you're going to be playing. And so um, that was definitely that scenario.
You not only play Jesse Brown, the aviator, but you are playing a father, a husband. How
Yeah.
much were you able to relate to him when he's outside of the plane within his personal life?
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting because, you know, something Daisy says in the picture, she goes, you know, that's the funniest man I've ever met. You know, if he if he likes you when you get to know him, he'll let you in, and you know you'll see. She says that to Tom, and I really like that line because, you know, that's something that I can relate to. You know, those who know me, you know, like I'm very serious actor, very serious man. You know, all those things, and I am. You know, but there's a part of me that is reserved, you know, just for, you know, those people, you know what I mean, who I get close to, or, you know, really know me and I really know them, you know. So I mean, that part I could relate to completely. One of my favorite scenes some of my favorite scenes are in the house. You know, quick moment when I go and pick up Pam after coming home from work, and it's just a sequence between a father and a daughter. You know, and I too am a father. You know, so it's quite beautiful. You know, those moments were quite close to me, and again, how modern, you know, this man was, how um every day and quotidian, you know, his experience could be Um, and hours later, he's doing a thing that no one else in the world has ever dreamed of, you know. So yeah, he was close in that way, and that was I could relate in that way, being a lover, being a partner, all those things were good. And also, when not in the sky, just the trepidation, one can have, being away from just being a minority in America, being a black man in America, yeah, I mean, there is a certain amount of distance, and for me, there was a certain amount of distance coming from where I come from, where you do have to figure out how to trust and move through, not all the time, but in certain situations. I reckon that's the same for everybody, but I don't know everybody's situation. I just know my situation. And to have that feeling, primarily because of the color of my skin, is something that Jesse also experienced. And though that's an uncomfortable similarity, it was something that was close to me.
What was the collaboration process, not just in the beginning, but as you're working on the film with your director, JD Dillard? Like,
Oh man, that collaboration was beautiful. In a nutshell, I mean, he is probably the most sensitive director I've ever worked with, and his his latitude of understanding for this world was sovereign. He really got us off the ground and landed the plane, and the time that he put into it, and the time that he, invested in me, and the time I invested in him, and ultimately us trying to find Jesse and build Jesse out. We would always, shooting a movie, there's pretty, it's all the same, it's pretty much all, you're doing the same thing. You know what I mean? The nuance of it is in the how, how your director's working with you, and that's where you make the memories. But I think the biggest memory and the biggest takeaway from our experience was probably, every Sunday we'd get together and we meet in the park and we go to a coffee shop, have breakfast, and we would just sit. I'd pull the script out and go, okay, this is what we're doing next week. What do you think? This is where I'm taking it. And then he would, poke holes in it, and I would say, no, 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 no hole here. This is how it goes. And break this down to you. And he goes, okay, cool, 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 cool. And he'd say something, and I try to poke holes in it. He'd say, no, 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 there's no holes in it. Let me explain it to you. And so we would kind of build and collaborate together. And that way, when we got to work, Monday morning, we were proper wingmen and could move and operate, swiftly, to bring the most out of each scene.
you spend the majority of the film also with your co-star, Glenn
Yeah,
Powell.
yeah.
How was it like working with him and creating this real life, refreshing friendship between Jesse and Tom that we see on screen?
Well, the beautiful thing about working with a Glenn Powell is that he has a way of, I mean, he just brightens up the space. You know what I mean? And a lot, and in doing so, his presence, his aviation IQ is something that helped us. You know what I mean? It helped us in general. There's a certain confidence that he has, and then so and because of that, there's a certain amount of you can have with him. And he's probably, not to speak in superlatives, but to speak in superlatives, the best scene partner, in some aspects that I've worked with. He's really on it. He's really trying to figure out, how to move everything forward. I don't know if that was because, he was, our co-lead and also the producer of the film, one of the producers of the film, but his investment was more than I could ever imagine. And yeah, us building the friendship was, trying to keep it real. He made a promise to Tom Hudner, uh, that he was going to get this, right. And my mantra is, get it truthful, by any means necessary. And so between his correctness and my search for authenticity, we really, built a friendship. And we talked about this quite often. That wasn't just, these guys are buddies. We've seen these films 100 times, I think so. I think what I think what me and Glenn did, what Tom and Jesse's friendship is so it's actually fucking people's brains up. You know what I mean? Because it's not the cinematic. Sometimes some people don't even recognize it. Because it is in some ways I believe a truthful bond. And not necessarily a Hollywood rah 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 bond. But it has to be because this is a friendship that yielded a legacy. That allowed books to be written about it. We now have made a film about it. So it's not the commonplace, black boy, white boy, now Fox and the Hound, now we're friends for life. It's not that. You know what I mean? We were very, we held each other accountable for allowing a natural and organic bond to come that was truthful in relation to what Jesse and Tom would have experienced. And I think what we would try to yield in that was not just a friendship, but a snapshot of what soulmates look like. And so there were many conversations, and also some conversations that we just did not need to have because we weren't going to give, we weren't attempting to give the PC version of boy from Mississippi, boy from Rhode Island. That we just weren't interested in that.
You've worked with a lot of great directors and artists already in your career.
Mm.
Are there any directors, actors, artists you haven't worked with yet that you love to collaborate with in the future?
Yeah, I mean, of course. First off, I would want to work with everybody I worked with before again, because we continue to grow in that way. But I'm a huge, I guess, the Anderson boys, right? Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson. Who else could I say? Spielberg, Barry Jenkins. Who else is on my mind? Who else is on my mind right now? Janixa Bravo, you know, Prince Blythewood. Yeah, I mean they're come. I mean all these folks. It's a great time to be making movies. I say Spielberg.
Yes, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
There
Spielberg twice. You know what I mean?
you go. Two
I think
movies.
the education from any of those directors would be great. You know, I just want to be better. And directors can help with that sometimes. I think the aforementioned directors really have a understanding of the craft that would allow me to explore my craft further.
You are going to have, I think, the busiest 2023 of any actor I've seen already looking at the slate, good sir. What excites you the most about the future projects that you've worked on and the ones that you're going to create, hopefully in the future, beyond your projects coming up?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things coming out pretty quickly, right here at the top of the year, and hopefully those things will it come out in a great time because hopefully, not hopefully, yeah, hopefully, they'll have legs, long after the first what we call first quarter, second quarter. Um, yeah, I mean, what am I looking forward to? Look, I mean, for a while, I was just on sets with my head down, headphones in, digging it out, punching, and lifting, and just really trying to get these stories and get these characters out, on set, get them photographed properly. And now, kind of starting in January with Sundance, we kind of begin to see the rollout of this chapter, so I'm excited about that. It's a relief, and for y'all. I mean, not necessarily journalists, but audience members. For the people to see these films, because while I'm very, very, very proud of the work I've done and am humbled by the characters that somehow got put together, I'm more excited for those who I collaborated with to see the fruit of their labor as well. It's a collaboration ultimately. I think Michael B. Jordan put together an incredible one, if I mean, the best boxing picture in the history of boxing pictures. You know what I mean? Like it's for our time, it's on that level. You know, I could say the same thing about what the MCU is trying to do, you know, and doing, you know, everybody worked extremely hard, you know, to get these films into the world, you know, not to mention this film Magazine Dreams, you know, which is, I mean, probably the most difficult role and process I've been in, you know. Um, and so yeah, I'm excited for everybody to see those things and to hear the conversations that come from those things and you know and try to understand the healing that people are going to get from them because ultimately, you know, for me that's what it's about. You know, that we can see these characters experience laughter and joy and pain and tears. And at the end of the day, you know, we're all better for it, you know. Um, so I'm excited. I'm excited to give them away. You know, here, come, there you go. There's that. There it is. You know,
I'm excited for them. We're all excited to see them,
thank
and it's going to be a great year for you. And this is a great film, and you're great in it. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much for your time today, Jonathan.
My pleasure, bro.